I won't keep you very long. I'm here representing the HRB Mother and Baby Clinical Trials Network on behalf of Professor Fergal Malone and Professor Jean Dempsey in UCC, who are co-chairing the network. And just a very brief introduction to what the network is and to some of the activities that it's currently conducting, although it's going to be a big letdown for you after hearing Alistair's the novelty he's introduced into some of these studies. I feel like revising my slide set entirely, but don't have the time. So the Mother and Baby Clinical Trial Network Ireland, we probably spent maybe, a lot of planning went into this, so we probably spent about 3 months coming up with the title and agreeing that politically. So the aim of the network overall is to improve health outcomes for women and children, both in Ireland and globally. And there's some evidence that some of the work is starting to do that, or certainly has very strong potential to do that, certainly nationally and also internationally. It brings together leading Irish obstetric, neonatal and midwifery researchers to address problems of specific concerns in women's and children's health. It's composed of obstetricians, neonatologists, midwives, but also other health-related professionals working in maternity care from 7 of the largest maternity hospitals in Ireland, which between them have 55,000 babies born every year. I think that might be one of the unique features of this network, is that it has certainly 3 of Europe's largest maternity hospitals involved in the network. So 55,000, the vast majority of all babies born every year are born in hospitals that are in the network. So in one sense, the Mother and Baby Clinical Trials Network has got very good penetration and access into the clinical sites where this research will be conducted. We're doing some work at the moment with an industry partner in Germany, and they're saying to get access to a similar number of births per year, they would need to access over 30 maternity units. We can provide this within 7 maternity units. So the 4 key pillars of activity that we're focused on. One is to establish a world-class centre of excellence in perinatal research. We're focused on also developing capacity to conduct high-quality, patient-orientated clinical research. We are looking at how we're translating the findings into clinical practice to improve health of women and children. And I guess taking a lesson from Eamon's talk earlier on, we probably have focused far less and need to focus far more on the policy potential implications in the policy briefs. Certainly a lesson I've taken from today. And lastly, we've got the same requirements as all of the 4 CTNs, and that's the beautiful word sustainability. We have to become self-sustaining over a period of 5 years. And that raises challenges in terms of how is core coordination costs going to be met within the suite of grant activities, for example. So we've got a large number of partners, both nationally and internationally, and these are their logos on the website. It's continuously expanding. Many of the studies that are being conducted are recruiting in Ireland and the UK, and some are recruiting beyond those countries. I think one of the, I'm sure it's quite similar to all the networks, is that it genuinely is multidisciplinary. There is no one of the trials that are being conducted at the moment that hasn't got a wide multidisciplinary team feeding into the particular question and the methodology with which that question is being answered. We're focused on 3 pillar activities. One is maternal and fetal medicine, one trial methodology, and others neonatal aspects. And I want to just give you some brief examples of some of the work the network is undertaking. So we have 2 studies led out of UCC here. It seems appropriate to put these first, given where we are. Led by Professor Louise Kenny and her team. The first one is the PARROT study, and it's looking at the role of placental growth factor hormone in the care of women with preeclampsia during pregnancy. The STRIDER study is looking at the effects of sildenafil or Viagra for administering that to babies with severe intrauterine growth restriction, and seeing can its effects on vascular perfusion impact on placental perfusion for women who are experiencing severe intrauterine growth restriction of their babies. A test study is run by Professor Fionnuala McAuliffe in the National Maternity Hospital, and that's looking at the use of aspirin in preeclampsia and fetal growth restriction. The MINT study is the use of milronin in neonates with persistent pulmonary hypertension of the newborn. That's run by Professor Afif El Koufash in Rotunda. And Fionnuala Brathnach in the Rotunda is running a study looking at aspirin in pre-gestational diabetes. Jean Dempsey in Cork is a neonatologist, and in Cork they set up a neurodevelopmental assessment strategy whereby all infants of all of these studies will have comprehensive neurodevelopmental assessment conducted on a longitudinal basis as long-term follow-ups to each of these studies, and that's quite novel. And that's something that's been funded outside of the initial core grant and it's been funded subsequently by some grant income. We're in Galway, we're leading the development of some core outcome sets, initially looking at core outcome sets for trials evaluating interventions for the treatment and prevention of intrauterine growth restriction, because you'll see a number of those trials address issues of intrauterine growth restriction. And in addition, we're looking at the different methodological ways that are used to develop core outcome sets. I think there's a good example from the maternity care space about the importance of core outcome sets. So in a piece of work we looked at a number of years ago, we looked at trials that were being used to evaluate the effectiveness of interventions for the prevention of preterm birth. So a very narrow space within a very narrow topic area. So of the 114 trials that were looked at evaluating the effectiveness of interventions for the prevention of preterm birth, we found 78 different primary outcome measures reported across that, which meant there was a lot of waste due to the inability to synthesize a lot of that information that might, not necessarily would have, but certainly might otherwise have been possible to synthesize and provide a greater certainty of evidence as to the effectiveness of these interventions. So that's some of our activities that we're developing. Again, we have a number of applications in the pipeline for various aspects of our network, both methodologically and in the neonatal space and the maternal fetal medicine space. That's it. Thank you.